Jonathan.
Hello, Catherine.
We're going to be starting off with some very big news here. In France, unemployment has hit another record high.
Yeah, over 3.3 million people out of work in January, according to these new figures from the French Labour Ministry. This is the number of people who've signed on for unemployment benefit. It's different from the unemployment rate. That's a more reliable figure. We'll get the details of that next week. Is the next quarterly unemployment rate is due out. Now, part of the problem, according to many economists here in France, is that the economy isn't growing fast enough to create jobs. The European Commission estimates the French economy will grow by just 1% this year. Many say that won't be enough to help increase employment. Oliver Farry has more.
Yet more people signing on in French job centres. The country's unemployment figures hit a record level in January. 3,316,200 people are registered as out of work. That's 8,900 more than in December. The French Prime Minister dismissed the rise as only slight.
We still have to persevere without letting up in our effort to bring about a lasting fall in unemployment in our country. We're not there yet, even though there are encouraging vectors of growth.
The French people can't wait any longer. They see discussions, debates, dialogues, but no decisions. When will they bring down social charges so that we can make recruitment cheaper and take on more young people?
After falling over the past year, youth unemployment has now stabilised. Yet the numbers of over 50s out of a job rose once again, up by 1.1%. France's stagnant economy is not helping things.
We don't have sufficient growth right now to create jobs and reduce unemployment, and we don't have a jobs policy capable of counteracting the prevailing situation.
In the space of 20 months, the number of people out of work has climbed by more than 366,000. Last year, the French government failed to meet its target of bringing unemployment down by the end of 2013.
OK, so let's find out how the French papers are reacting to these latest unemployment figures with our press reviewer, Florence Villeminot. Hi there, Flo.
Hi, Catherine.
Start us off with one of France's most respected papers, Le Monde.
That's right. Well, Le Monde has very, very harsh words for the Labour Minister, Michel Sapin. They call him not the Labour Minister, but the Minister of Broken Promises. So you have these nearly 9,000 extra job seekers in January. That's not exactly the inversion of the unemployment curve that the government has been promising for such a long time. And yet, Le Monde says that the minister refuses to talk about failure. Le Monde says that ever since he became minister in May 2012, Sapin hasn't managed to lower unemployment, but what he has managed to do is be very creative when talking about the statistics. He's pretty much made it into an art form. No matter what the statistics say, he always says that things are getting better. For instance, today, he tells Le Monde the battle hasn't yet been won, but it will be. Sapin pretty much congratulates the government because, sure, job seekers did increase, but they didn't increase by that much, according to Sapin. We're currently winning the fight against the skyrocketing unemployment figures, and next we'll actually try to inverse the unemployment curve. That's what he says today. And so Le Monde really mocks this rhetoric and pokes fun at the government for actually having the nerve to pat themselves on the back this month.
Well, that positive spin must sound quite unfortunate to people who are seeking jobs, those people who have started signing on as unemployed in the last month. And you've got a report in La Croix about people who are in that situation.
That's right. La Croix wonders just how hard is it actually to find a job, and how do people who end up finding jobs find them? And starting in June, it started following 4 job seekers who have since found work. And according to La Croix, most job seekers don't actually depend on the state agency called Pôle emploi. Pôle emploi registers unemployed people. It provides them with financial aid, and it's also supposed to help them find work. But La Croix says most workers don't actually depend on it. They depend on their own network and spontaneously sending out their CVs. Now, La Croix also goes to the country in Europe which has the lowest unemployment, which is Austria, to see how things work there. What's Austria's recipe for success? Well, La Croix says it's no miracle solution, but it is a job market that's a lot more flexible. There's a lot more investment in training programs and dynamic businesses.
OK, really interesting investigation there. Could lead into future reforms, perhaps, here in France. We will come back to the rest of the stories in the French papers in a moment, Florence, but let's turn back to Stephen now. And you've been looking at the latest woes for the Australian national airline.
Yeah, Qantas is going to cut 5,000 more jobs. This after the company announced losses of $225 million for the second half of 2015. 2013. The figure compares to a profit of almost 200 million for the same period in 2012. Now, these job cuts will amount to around 1/6 of Qantas's workforce and are part of a massive cost-cutting plan at the airline. Now, Qantas has been struggling with increased international competition for some time and has called on the government to ease rules that it's imposed on the which actually limit how Qantas can raise new capital. Now, the airline is to sell or delay the delivery of some 50 aircraft to save money, and the CEO says there are more challenges ahead.
This performance by our airlines is unacceptable, and the current position is unsustainable. It reflects a substantial change in our circumstances.
Now, it's interesting to compare the fate of Qantas with that of Air New Zealand, the New Zealand national airline. It posted a record half-year profit of around $116 million US, up 40% on the previous period. Air New Zealand owns almost 25% of Qantas's main rival, Virgin Australia. Now, the company says it expects to benefit from growth on Virgin's domestic Australian routes, again underlying this competition problem that Qantas has.
Very competitive. What's that news done to Qantas's share price?
As you can imagine, not great news on the stock markets. Qantas's share price down 9% in Sydney today. In fact, not helping overall the trade on the Sydney markets, down almost 0.5%. You can see there the S&P ASX 200, Nikkei's Japan, or the Nikkei in Japan, got down the end, in the red as well. But a much brighter picture, as you can see in the Chinese shares there, both the Shanghai Composite and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong trading in positive territory. This after the central bank allowed the currency, the renminbi, to appreciate after a week-long losing streak. Investors watching closely to see what new economic policy will emerge as the legislative period gets underway there in China.
OK, there is plenty of companies news out and about today. Stephen, take us through the stories that have stood out to you.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the French nuclear company Areva, which has reported net losses of almost €500 million in 2013. The largely state-owned firm was mostly dragged down by increased costs relating to its new generation EPR reactor it's building in Finland. Areva also confirmed its plan to build 10 such reactors by 2016. Profits at China's leading search engine Baidu fell by 0.4% in the last 3 months of 2013. That's despite revenues rising by over 50% to $1.6 billion. Baidu's profits were hit by an increase in marketing and administrative costs linked to a new push on its mobile services. And the head of the troubled Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox says he's working hard to find a solution to the site's recent crisis. Mt. Gox's website went offline earlier this week after allegations that some $300 million worth of Bitcoins had gone missing. Mark Capellas posted a statement online saying he was still in Japan and was working on a solution with the support of various different parties.
All right, finally now, they might be known for their planes, but Boeing has gone a little bit Mission Impossible with their latest product. Do tell us more.
Yeah, details have emerged of the aircraft maker's new phone, which deletes all call and message data if someone tries to tamper with it. It was being developed in secret, but the details have emerged through a regulatory filing in the United States. Boeing is targeting security-conscious users, particularly those working in government agencies. The phone is covered in a special resin and screws that are fitted with tamper-proof effects to try to stop them, the mobile phone being opened. If that does happen, all of the data on the phone is deleted. Sounds quite Mission Impossible.
Sounds amazing. I'd love that.
Yeah, Boeing has a track record in this area, though. It already provides communications for Air Force One.
I think it'd be better if it exploded in the person's pocket. If you've ever had your phone stolen, that's exactly what you want to happen, isn't it?
Slightly more dangerous, perhaps.
Well, it's sort of a small explosion, just to sort of shock them. Thanks very much, Stephen Carroll. I'd like you to get working on that between now and the next business update in an hour's time. We're going to turn back to the French papers with Florence Villemino. And sticking with that theme of jobs,